All right, everyone. I started this channel a couple of weeks ago, because I felt the need to continue to talk about the takeover of United and to provide an opportunity for myself, selfishly, but also for other people to get away from the drama of everything that was going on in social media at that time, and just talk about what was actually happening and move away from the toxicity of having to know when everything was going to happen, who was right, who was wrong, and all that kind of thing, just to talk about it because that's what I felt I needed to do. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and in hindsight, I probably started the channel about a month or two too late because since I started the channel, next to nothing has happened. And that for me is not a reason not to continue to voice our opinion on what we want to happen with our club. But I feel more and more and more like a lone voice amongst a sea of apathy with the majority of United fans. Whether it's apathy, ignorance, or a bit of both, I'm not too sure. Um, it's typical of the United fan base that if there are not stories out there keeping the takeover prevalent and alive, no one's prepared to try and keep it relevant and alive. There's been matches, there's been opportunities to do, I guess, high profile protests and high profile boycotts, even if it was only something like people just don't talk about the game on social media because it's irrelevant. A friendly against Real Madrid is irrelevant. I see people getting up at 3 in the morning to watch it. Um, so the Glazers have done what they've done all the way through the time at the club. They've pulled your pants down and smacked your ass, and everybody's fallen for it again. Because whenever there's games or there's transfer speculation or there's something other than the Glazers to talk about, everybody falls for it. And everybody just starts taking up space on social media and I guess making YouTube videos, etc., about stuff that is patently, absolutely irrelevant to our football club in the long term. Yesterday, there was a story about Højlund potentially going to PSG, and I thought it's probably by the looks of it, it's not going to happen. But I thought you watch the absolute kickoff if it happens. All of a sudden, everybody will be going on about the Glazers again. Then we have got a minority of strong-minded individuals who really want the Glazers out, regardless, and will die for the cause almost. And the 58, fair play to you, hats off to you, because you've done a fantastic job at least trying to make this happen. So there's a group that are unperturbed by what happens in terms of external circumstances. Whatever happens, if we were winning trophies, if we were winning games, if we were signing players, it doesn't matter. The most important thing to that tribe of people is that the Glazers leave our football club, and that's the tribe that I'm in. You've got too many others who want the Glazers to go, but are far too easily swayed by external circumstances, so that if everything seems to be going all right in the pitch, they go, or with signings and stuff like that, they go absolutely silent, say nothing, or might have it as, I might have a green and gold scarf on my fireplace or on my icon from a Twitter page or whatever. But then as soon as something happens, like, Nautovic was supposed to be signing last season, we didn't get enough players, we got beat 4-0 by Brentford after getting beaten the first game of the season, then they kick off. Then it's Glazers out, then they're militant, then there's tons of them going to protests. Well, that's not enough. You either think what you think or you don't. You don't need a crap window. You don't need the suggestion of a terrible signing. You don't need us missing out on signings. You don't need us finishing seventh. You don't need us being taken for a ride with the Super League. Surely you don't need all that to know that the Glazers aren't right for our football club. But that's the majority. And then you've got a third section of people who just don't really care. about whether the Glazers are there or not. Whether the Glazers are there or not, they're going to support the team and they're going to support the football club with the same amount of energy and enthusiasm, whatever that might look like for that person, as if we had great owners. So you've got those three. You've got the people that are steadfast that they need to leave the club, whatever is happening. You've got the people who only come out when things go wrong, and you've got the people who just basically will support the club, whatever. And not because I support the club, whatever, but I suppose will just keep their counsel. Maybe perhaps just people who are they have apathy towards this situation. That small minority that are steadfast in their views need, in my opinion, to start causing more disruption, because it doesn't take a majority to cause disruption. We've seen that with the oil protesters. I forget what they're called, but you'll know what I mean. They've attempted to get sporting events called off through their protests. Don't see many people shouting at them as criminals or that they're hooligans or heathens or whatever, because they believe in something. I haven't got a dog in that fight. I don't know anything about it really, because I don't watch the news all that much, but to inform me on it. But it's a symbol, I suppose, rather than me needing to know the details. A symbol is that can happen. You can get 200 or 300 people to make sure that something gets cancelled or gets called off or whatever, and we've got about 2,000, 3,000 people locally that are very passionate about this. It won't take all 2,000 of them. It'll take 300 or 400 that are in the ground to cause maximum disruption. Now, the 58 have always said they want to do things legally, and I think technically that would be illegal. The 58 are trying to get the Glazers out of the football club. When you come up against a pothole, like the fact that the fans just won't do enough, they won't stand outside for 18 minutes against Aston Villa, so they're certainly not going to boycott the stadium. That's a barrier. So our own fans are a barrier to the 58 probably doing what they need to do, or them achieving their goal. The goal is that the Glazers leave. Our fans are a barrier to that. So I know they've got to be careful and kind of think, well, we don't want to start turning our own fans against each other. We've got to stay united as a fan base. It's almost impossible to get your end goal and have a united fan base. We have to move that barrier of the fans being having too much apathy, running with the hares, jumping with the hounds. We have to have maximum disruption, which causes as much problem to the club, as many problems as possible to the club, so that then games get called off. There's huge implications to that. And the vast majority of people don't want to know. So, as I said, as a 58, if their goal is to get the Glazers out, you have to look at what are the barriers to our goal here. And some of the barriers are our own fans, because the Glazers just simply do not care. You can protest, you can set off flares, and by the way, I'll reiterate, everything they've done, the 58, is fantastic, because at least they've done something. They're far way ahead of Must in terms of what they've achieved in a short period of time. But I've listened to them being interviewed, and everything is, I suppose, calm and strategic, and they have to be a bit like that. They don't want to be seen to be a bunch of hooligans, and I think they're very mindful of that, and I understand that. But they said in that podcast on BBC the other day, this could take 18 months. What's happening is you're starting to accept that this could take 18 months. You can't accept that. If you're fighting something, you've got to fight. Acceptance isn't part of a fight. You have to keep going. And my concern is it's too late. My concern is that they've got, I think they're cooking something in the background. These rats. Because they look very smug when you see them on the TV. The arrogance of them to not come out and say anything, because they don't need to, because it's just those peasants who keep buying the shirts, who keep turning up to the games, who keep waking up and paying for MUTV and watching it until 3 a.m. They keep falling for the nonsense that we put out there in the press, and always, always, always want to give the benefit of the doubt. They know they've got us by the balls completely. So they don't have to say anything. They don't have to do anything. As I said in my last video, at some point they will have to do something because they haven't got any money. But they have been bought time. They have been given time to perhaps be cooking something, because all last season there was opportunities for the fans to do more and they did nothing. In terms of updates for what they're worth, Caver, whatever his name is, from Sky Sports, I've just watched the update, as much as you could call it an update, where he suggested that we'll get some clarity when they come back off the tour next week. At the end of the video, he said it's not necessarily a sale, and he actually ended the video by saying he thinks the Glazers will still be involved in some capacity, which either points to minority investment or Sir Jim. Where's he got that from? I don't know. I'm taking it with a huge pinch of salt. I'm taking it with a huge pinch of salt that we'll hear anything next week. Because I think if it was out there with credible sources that something was going to happen, I think more people would be saying it. And I think he's never been ahead of the game. He's not done stuff before anybody else previously. So I'm not massively, I'm not paying too much attention to the fact that he said that we're going to get some clarity next week. And if he's saying the Glazers are still going to be here or involved, that points to Sir Jim, or an investor. It certainly doesn't point to the 9-2 Foundation. One slight update, I guess you could call it. I'll just get it up. Bex Beckham saying, let's have a look. Off the field, as a fan and ex-player, I just want it resolved. There has to be a decision regarding the ownership. Whoever is running your club, you want them to be passionate, be involved, make the right decisions, bring in the right players and invest in the club, because the club does need investment, whether it's the training facility, stadium, on the field. These kind of big things need to be made, and changes do need to happen, especially when you see the likes of Man City and what they're doing. Quizzed if it was time for the Glazers to leave, Beckham added, I think so. I think it's purely because the fans want it. Now, what he said next is really interesting, because I did a video on Sir Alex Ferguson a couple of weeks ago and what I thought he could say without completely peeing on his chips in terms of the Glazers, and Beckham's pretty much said it. So he said, obviously the Glazers, have achieved a lot, and financially the fact that we're even talking about the numbers of what Manchester United will sell for shows the success they've had. It doesn't, but there you go. But there needs to be change, and we've all seen that. We all know that. That's spot on, because he's a people always used to take the mickey out of him, didn't they, for being thick. He's a clever lad, Beckham, and he's not going to come out and start saying, yeah, Glazers out, and waving the scarf around his head like he did when he when he picked the scarf up after he left the pitch when he played for AC Milan, which was phenomenal because he knew exactly what he was doing. He's not going to start doing that, obviously. He's got to be seen to be a pragmatist in this situation, but at least he said something, and he said that he's put his colours to the mast. He said he thinks they should go. I don't know if it'll make any difference, and it's not an update or anything. It's just something that I thought. I only want to talk about stuff related to the takeover. I'm uninterested about anything else to do with United. I was uninterested when the season was going on, so I'm certainly uninterested in pre-season, when it's silly season being linked to players and playing friendlies that mean absolutely nothing. And this is at least linked to the takeover or non-takeover or whatever. Last week, I said that my conclusion was that they are going to sell, but it might be a lot longer into the distance than we would want. My reasoning still says that, but their body language, their silence, the fact that everything's just carrying on as it normally would do with them in charge, the fact they're making strategic appointments, it's hugely worrying from a United fan's perspective. And I reiterate, there has been no pressure on them whatsoever from anybody, and that's a big reason they've been allowed to take the piss, which is what they've done. To summarise or to finish the video, like all the way through their ownership of the club, whenever there seems to be an exciting option or a Glazer option, the Glazer option is always so anticlimactic. They buy players that you have to find a reason to like, that you have to almost make up a reason to be supportive of. But it's not the player we need, and we all know that. They get managers in. They've been appalling with their choice of managers, apart from Ten Hag. They get managers in that, again, I found myself having to compromise. I found myself having to go, I don't fancy him at all, but what choice have we got? We've got to give him a chance. He's the one that's been chosen. You can see after 5 months, a manager isn't going to work out, but you know they're not going to get sacked because it has to get to levels of complete toxicity and poison before they'll sack anybody. And this sale process is the same. There's the option of 9-2 Foundation, which if that happened, that's the rebirth of our football club, potentially. And that's a moment where I go out my garden and I get 2 or 3 bottles of fizzy stuff and go absolutely mental and film myself doing it to put on here just for a laugh. I don't care. And I don't care how much it costs. I'll spray it all over my garden in celebration and get leathered afterwards, because it'll be the biggest thing to happen to our football club since the treble in '99. You've got that option, the euphoric option. What we'll get potentially is Sir Jim's there, with them there as well. Sir Jim's a crap owner. He's been rubbish at Nice. He ain't got any money to do what needs to be done. I'm completely unimpressed with him in every way. And again, we'll be in a situation, and I don't include myself in this because I'll walk away this time, but a lot of people will be, well, okay, well, at least it's better than the Glazers. He's a local guy, he supported United, he went to the final in '99. Everyone will make their peace with it because you kind of have to. I won't be making my peace with it. That is the death nail, if that's an expression, in our football club. We cease to be a serious football club if and when that happens. And as much as you support your club regardless, I cannot continue to watch while they're there and involved, or, to be honest, him, because he was happy to keep them there. I'm not going to watch something I love be abused as it has been for the last 18 years. My choice is I'll walk away. And it'll hurt, but I'll do it because I'm not carrying on. Out of love as much as anything else, I would walk away. Because it's just another massive, great crack in the nuts from the Glazers. So I started this channel to have conversations like this. No one's watching, or 2 people are watching, or whatever, but makes me feel a bit better. So if you were watching, thank you. Do what you need to do, like, subscribe, comment if you want, and up the Reds. Glazers out.